And keeping up with our continuing coverage of marriage equality for same-sex couples, we go back to the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit with Raymond for the latest developments on the Proposition 8 case.
After the California Supreme Court ruled in November last year that the proponents of Proposition 8 have legal standing to defend the state initiative banning same-sex marriage, the legal fight for marriage equality returned to the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. At the hearing in front of 3 judges, lawyers for the Alliance Defense Fund argued to have the videotapes from the trial at the district court sealed from public view as promised by Judge Vaughn Walker.
Judges, as the most visible players of our judicial system, must always act with the highest levels of professionalism. In this case, where the district court gave its sworn assurance that videotapes of the trial proceedings would be used only in chambers and not for public broadcasting or televising, litigants and the public must be able to trust the representations of the court.
We are anxious for the American people to see what some of you saw every single day in this trial, the truth. They don't want you, the American public, to see the trial. Is there any good answer to the argument that the American public should not see the trial of a constitutional right of hundreds of thousands of Americans that 13 million citizens of California cared enough about to vote on? And this involves the Constitution of the United States. And they don't want you, the American people, to see it. What does that tell you?
More importantly, lawyers for the proponents claim that Judge Vaughn Walker, who is gay and in a long-term relationship, will benefit from his own decision on the case, and thus his decision is biased and must be thrown out of court.
By appearing to rule as a judge over his own case, Judge Walker violated the most basic and fundamental principles of the judiciary.
And there is no case anywhere in American jurisprudence that says a judge that is a minority, because he is a minority, he can sit on his own case.
There can be no quarrel that his actions in this matter fall well beyond any acceptable standard for a federal judge or of any other officer of the court. For all these reasons, the only reasonable course of action remains for the Ninth Circuit to fully vacate Judge Walker's decision and order that the case be retried by a neutral judge.
But if Judge Walker was ruling that he has a constitutional right to get married to his 10-year-long partner as soon as his ruling is affirmed, if it is by this court, then if this court does not says what they urge you to say, that that's just fine, this will be a signal and dark day in American jurisprudence.
Ted Olson says the proponents of the gay marriage ban are trying to hide from the public the weak testimonies from their only 2 expert witnesses.
The other thing is that they're saying that inferentially, because they after a year or so after the trial, when they knew darn well the judge's sexual orientation, that the case should be thrown out and everybody should start all over again because he's gay. That would mean a black judge would not be able to rule on the constitutional right of black children to go to school, or women judges couldn't rule on cases involving pregnancy or abortion or planning for birth control and things of that nature. And those things are completely peripheral and beside the point with respect to what the fundamental rights are in this case. But they're fighting so hard because they don't like the decision that this judge made, and they don't want you to see how fair and impartial and level-headed he was throughout the whole case in rendering that decision. Because if the American people did see the trial, the idea that the judge was biased would be out the window.
This will be a signal and dark day in American jurisprudence.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Well, let's hope, however it comes out, it won't be a dark day in our jurisprudence.
At the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal, this is Raymond Donald Hong for Outlook Video.
Also, later in this half hour, we have continuing coverage on the Proposition 8 appeal decision.
With the decision on the unconstitutionality of Proposition 8 upheld by the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, marriage equality activists gathered at the LGBT Center to celebrate the day, knowing that the fight for same-sex marriage is far from over.
Justice will roll like rain throughout San Francisco. It's a prediction. And tonight at 5 o'clock, LGBT Center. Yes. Community gathering.
Sometimes Scripture speaks so deeply into the human condition. And today, this is the scripture I bring. This is the day the Lord has made. Yes, yes. We will rejoice and be glad in it. We will rejoice and be glad in it. We will rejoice and be glad in it. We know marriage equality. We still have a long way. That fight isn't over. But today we rejoice. We celebrate. We celebrate the truth that the moral arc of the universe may take a long time, but it really does bend towards justice. We celebrate the power of love to overcome hate. We celebrate the power of justice to overcome fear. We celebrate that on this day, the United States of America lived out more closely its core value of liberty and justice for all.
And if it isn't for us right now, future generations won't be standing here down the road fighting the next thing that we need to fight. Because while we are on the edge of winning in California, we got a long ways to go on the federal level. And I'm not stopping until I get all 1,138 rights. Yeah. Kristen and I do not have a civil union. We do not have a domestic partnership. We have taken care of all the legal paperwork to make sure that, God forbid, something happens to us, we're okay. But we will not settle for less. We will not go out of state and get married because this is where we live. We will not go out of the country and get married because this is where we live. Marriage matters, and it's about time that the courts are saying that it matters on a bigger level, and that they see that, and that they agree that we need to be fully equal.
So the federal court today looked very specifically at the circumstances of Proposition 8. Proposition 8 was the first time that an initiative actually took away a fundamental freedom, namely the freedom to marry, from lesbian and gay people. The court today said that regardless of some of the broader issues about the fundamental right to marry or broader questions about equality for lesbian and gay people, taking away a basic human freedom just because a group of voters decide that some people should be second class, that violates the United States Constitution. The court, in essence, today said that all citizens are first class, that gay and lesbian people cannot have their rights just taken away in order to declare them unequal.
We drove down to Carmel and we had a very romantic dinner, and the two of us proposed to each other over dinner, and we said that when marriage finally is legal and Prop 8 is overturned, we are going to marry. And we are one step closer to that today, and we are overjoyed.
There's something new in this decision. This decision acknowledges the pain of Proposition 8. This decision acknowledges that that was wrong. It tells us that we should never have gone through what we went through in California in 2008 and what we've gone through in state after state after state, having a fundamental human right put up for a popular vote. That is wrong. And that is what this decision says. Fundamental rights are not up for a popular vote. And that is pure poetry.
How do you know this is truly a gay marriage decision?
Wow.
They cite Marilyn Monroe. Can you believe it? Marilyn Monroe, okay. Had Marilyn Monroe's film been called How to Register a Domestic Partnership with a Millionaire, it would have not conveyed the same meaning as How to Marry a Millionaire. All right. They get it. Marilyn, you rock.
Proposition 8 proponents have filed a request with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit for an en banc review. If the Ninth Circuit grants their request, litigants on both sides will have to face an 11-judge panel for another session of oral arguments. For the time being, the ban on same-sex marriage in California remains in effect. At the LGBT Center in San Francisco, this is Raymond Donald Hong for Outlook Video. As of October 2012, Proposition 8, which bans same-sex marriage, has been ruled unconstitutional in 2 courts, the U.S. District Court and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. As expected, the proponents of Proposition 8 have asked the United States Supreme Court to review the case. If the 9 justices in Washington, D.C. deny the request to review what is now called Hollingsworth v. Perry, then Proposition 8 will be history and same-sex marriages in California will resume. If they decide to review, which is likely, then oral arguments will be presented next year, followed by a final decision in June 2013. In San Francisco, this is Raymond Donald Hong for Outlook Video.